joining the conversation, MSNBC contributor Mike Barnicle, White House correspondent for PBS NewsHour Yamiche Alcindor, and national political correspondent for NBC News and MSNBC, Steve Kornacki. Steve, it's great to see you again. I'll let you take the wheel on this polling here. What do you see in these state-by-state polls, but also the national polls, some of the crosstabs we've seen over the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is that this is an interesting sort of way of getting confirmation. We've had national poll numbers, as you mentioned, for the last couple of weeks that have looked really bad for the president, and you start to wonder, well, you know, is it possible they're missing something? Are these outliers, anything? When you start getting state polls that match the national polls, that's sort of confirmation that we really are right now, at least in the situation you're describing. I mean, the way I look at it is we had moments in 2016 where Donald Trump sort of hit ebbs, where the lead, the gap that he faced against Hillary Clinton would get extra large, and it would, about a week or two later, it would kind of return to baseline. There is a question here of whether Trump is in one of those ebbs right now, although I would note this ebb would be worse for him than any of the ebbs he had in 2016. When you start looking at gaps like this in these states, when you start looking at polls that show him down 11, 12, 13, 14 points nationally, he would be behind Hillary Clinton in 2016, but he wouldn't be quite that far behind Hillary Clinton. It seems in this in these battleground state polls from the New York Times and Siena, the biggest shift that you're seeing here, it is among white voters. You know, white voters, about 2/3, about 70% of the electorate in November. This is a group that Donald Trump won by 20 points in 2016. In this polling right now in these states, it's down to 4 points. That's the advantage he has. Wow. There's been a margin here among white voters with a college. White voters kind of split in half, with a college degree, without a college degree. It's two groups we've seen that are kind of diverging politically in the last number of years, and especially in the Trump era. Here's a Biden lead in these states, cumulatively in this New York Times poll, a Biden lead of 21 points among white voters with a college degree. Again, this used to be, if you go back just a generation, really, a bedrock Republican constituency. Voters in the suburbs, white voters in the suburbs, been moving steadily towards the Democrats. But in the Trump era, this is exploding. And you see it here with Joe Biden now opening up an enormous advantage there. And the other one that jumps out to me, we had talked about this a few months ago. If you go back pre-coronavirus, when the polling between Biden and Trump was a little more competitive, was a little closer, one of the weaknesses that Biden had was that he didn't have the kind of advantage among younger voters that you would normally expect, I think, given the expect sort of younger voters to be on the Democratic side, given everything we hear and we've seen. It was a 17-point advantage for Biden in this polling among 18 to 29-year-old voters last fall. It's now nearly 40 points. So it's now moved much more in line, I think, with what expectations were. It was an area where Biden was lagging. It may be an effect of these the protests over the last few weeks, the attention to racial justice issues, but more than a doubling of Biden's advantage among 18 to 29-year-old voters. That's a place where there was slack for Biden a while back, and you're just not seeing it now.
Mike Barnicle, I know you have a question for Steve Kornacki, but can't help but talk to you about a trend that you and I both know and have both seen in our adult lifetimes. That Ronald Reagan who made the suburbs solidly Republican, and certainly did that in 1980, 84, 88. And it remained that way. The suburbs remained solidly Republican, especially the white suburbs remained solidly Republican, as Steve Kornacki said, until recently. And what Ronald Reagan built in the suburbs, Donald Trump has destroyed. And we don't have to look at these numbers that we've gotten from the New York Times Siena poll this morning. We can just look at the election results from 2017, 2018, 2019. The Reagan coalition has been blown to bits by Donald Trump. And right now, these numbers suggest, if we continue in this direction, we will see it in the most dramatic way come November.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's pretty easy to understand why, Joe. If you reflect back on 1980 and 1984 and Ronald Reagan running for president, running for re-election as a president, he didn't scare anybody. He didn't go out there with race-baiting language. He didn't behave like a social arsonist every time he left the White House or he went on the campaign trail. Those two items are something that Donald Trump has done each time he has been out in the past 2 or 3 weeks. He did it in Tulsa and he did it in Arizona. Race baiting and social arson, pouring gasoline on open wounds. And it is incredible that we have more than 40 million people collecting unemployment benefits in this country. And that issue alone is overshadowed by two paramount issues today, the virus and race in America. And Steve, I'd like you, if you could, address the underlying elements in the poll when it comes to women in the suburbs, college-educated women and non-college educated women. Where are they? Where do you sense they're going?
Yeah, I mean, this is if you looked at the national poll that the New York Times and CNN put out yesterday. Today they've got these 6 battleground state polls. The national poll yesterday had Trump down 14 points nationally to Joe Biden, 50 to 36. In that poll, white women with a college degree, college-educated white women, were with Joe Biden by nearly 40 points. So that is, again, we've talked about, this has been a story that was told before Donald Trump, that, hey, you sort of had these non-college white voters were trending a little bit towards the Republicans, college-educated white voters more towards the Democrats. There was some foundation for that before Trump, but what's happened is Trump came along in 2016, got elected, the last 3 years have gone as they have, and that divergence has just become just a massive, massive chasm now, where you've got, like, Trump still doing well, relatively speaking, with non-college white men, and then you go to the other end, college-educated white women, you've got a 40-point gap. Just a huge, huge divergence has opened up there.
Hey, Steve, Sam here. Less of an empirical question, more of a philosophical one, but I'm curious to your take nonetheless. I have a theory about presidential elections, which is that they tend to be reactive events. And by that, I mean Bush obviously was going to follow Clinton because he was preaching, morals in the White House. And Obama was going to follow Bush because he was preaching post-partisanship. And Trump, for obvious reasons, is a reactive event to Obama. To that degree, does Biden, being this sort of guy who's non-dramatic, not in your face, a return to your norms, staying in his basement, as Joe said, but sort of not offending people as a matter of course, does that help him here in that he's creating a really obvious contrast to the showmanship, the in-your-face elements of the Trump presidency?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. And that's what Willie was talking about a few minutes ago. I think he was exactly right. It's just the idea that Biden has almost ceded the stage here willingly to Donald Trump, and let Donald Trump be the star of the last few months and let people sort of make up their mind based on that. And I look at these poll numbers right now, and one question I ask myself is, did it have to be this way? If the Democrats had nominated anybody else, would it also be this way? Would Bernie Sanders, would Elizabeth Warren also be 14 points up? And I don't know what kind of campaign they would have run, but I wonder, we talk about the strength that Biden has right now among suburban voters, suburban whites who had voted Republican in the past. And I wonder if Bernie Sanders, if he would still be leaning in, we probably likely would be still leaning in on the sort of democratic socialist message. Would that be putting those gains that Democrats have made in the suburbs, would that be putting those at risk to some extent? Yes. I wonder, if Elizabeth Warren, or I just wonder, if she leaned in or another candidate got forward and leaned in more in a more aggressive fashion on these protests. And I wonder, Biden has put this election in a position, has put this campaign, I think, in a position where, like Willie is saying, Trump is the featured player right now, and people are basing their judgments, I think, based on their assessment of Trump, and that's it right now.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories, and you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.